Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's live private members webinar. I know that there's still quite a few people to get logged on. So just saying hi, really informal webinars for the private members group because it is a closed group. And I like to just do a little bit of a chat, a bit of a Q&A, just find out where everybody is and just find out how I can help you and what you've been up to since the last webinar. And perhaps some of you maybe haven't been on the forum as much perhaps as you should have been perhaps, so maybe I can catch up with you and find out literally what you've all been up to. So for those new members, and we have had quite an influx of new members this month, the private webinars are usually, it really depends on the way that the month is structured, but normally between the 6th to the 10th of the month. And we advertise them on the Facebook forum, and we can really just talk about anything you want to. So what we like to do is have you lead the webinar in any way you want to. So as you probably see that I put a post on the forum to say, give me some suggestions on what topics you'd like me to discuss and how I can help you with that. So that's kind of what we like to try and do every month, and I start off with that topic. So just have about 3 or 4 slides covering that particular topic, and then we go into a Q&A. So what I'd like you to do is I'd encourage you just to say hi for me so I know you're here, talk to me. It is an interactive webinar, so it really is only going to be as good as you make it, not me. So like anything with coaching and mentoring folks, it's all about you. So you have to make it what it is. I'm getting loads of highs now in the boxes. Thank you, folks. Hi, Roger. Hi, Lee. Hi, Gerdip. Hi, Roger. Roger said he's forgotten his question. So anything at all, folks, that you'd like me to try and answer for you, please type it in the question box on your toolbar, and we'll get round to it in the question and answer section. So we've got about 4 slides, that's all, so nice and easy sort of get together. And I was asked by a member if I could look into how to raise joint venture finance and how to source money for deals. So the beginning part of the webinar this evening is going to be about that, and I'm going to talk about my experiences based on how I've managed to raise money in the past in order to fund our portfolio deals. So the webinar usually goes on for between 40 minutes and an hour, depending on how interactive you guys and girls are with me. So don't forget, make sure that you can put your questions in, because it's really, really important for me that I give you massive value. So any questions that you've had over the last 4 weeks or so. So first of all, welcome to the new members. I hope you're finding the forum useful and the interactive learning platform. So the ones that are on month 1 at the moment, the learning platform is the classroom base course, which is all about repetition of learning. So I know that you wouldn't have picked up absolutely everything from the classroom course when you came onto the HMO Discovery Day. So we do repeat it on month 1, and then month 2 and 3, 4, 5, etc. go into more structured, detailed learning and breaking down of the individual sections. So if you've got any questions about that as well, just please let me know. I'm getting loads of questions in now already, so great. Keep them coming in, folks, and I will go through every one of them before the end of the webinar. So make sure that you keep asking the questions. And don't forget, there is no such thing as a daft question. And if you're asking it, it means that probably other people are thinking it as well. So it means everybody gets to benefit and we can share it as a group rather than just keeping it in the closed forum. So, okay, now lots of people coming in now. So good evening to everybody. Hi, Amy. Hi, Alan. Gurdeep. Lee, Roger, Santosh, Steve, Tony. Steve, I think I asked you to remind me of a question on the forum earlier, and I can't now remember what it was. I've had a really long day. If you can remember what that was, Steve, that'd be great. If you could type it into the question bar for me. I think it might have been something to do with landlord letters, I do suspect. Okay, so let's kick off then, folks. So I was asked about joint venture finance and how to work with investors. And in my experience, tonight's webinar is going to be based on the back of what we've done. So how can we find money? So lots of people come into property investing and one of their main concerns is, well, I don't have any money. How do I find money to finance my deals? So what I've done is I've created just some very simple answers for you as bullet points, and I'll dissect them as we go along. So how do you find money? So here are a few pointers for you. So make sure that you've got a notepad and you're writing these down. I am recording this evening's webinar, so it will be posted in the forum. If I'm honest with everybody, I don't really like to record the webinars because it does give people the opportunity not to join live and watch it in their own time. But I do know that people have got busy lives, and it would be unfair for me to do that. So, okay. Here's how we have sourced our finance and our investors over the past few years. So these are my top tips. So first of all, family members. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you could ask a member of your family if they've got any savings in the bank. Now, I know it sounds a bit of a brash question, but if they do have savings in the bank, would they like to achieve a higher return on their savings? And what are they getting at the moment? Are they getting 0.5% in the bank, or maybe 1% or more? And would they like to invest their savings perhaps with you, where you would put it into property and pay them a higher return? And we'll break down how to do that in a second. Pension pots. Now, these are a great resource and a great route to finding money. Now, there are lots of different schemes that you can choose to go into. You have something called a SAS and something called a SIP. And if you would like to look at taking your pension out of your current pension scheme and holding a SAS or a SIP and putting it into the custody of an IFA, if you like, then there are certain things that you can and you can't do with pension pots. So you can loan yourself 50% of the value of your pension pot and pretty much do what you like with it. You can loan the whole value of your pension pot to other people for a great return, or you can buy commercial property with all of your pension pot as well. So for further information on pensions, folks, if you go into the Facebook forum, our private forum on the members group, and look for Kevin Whelan. And Kevin is we've worked with Kevin for quite a while now, our independent financial advisor. And through Kevin and his team, Lorraine, not me, because I had a police pension, it was a little bit difficult, but Lorraine managed to take out all of her pension. And we have then since gone off and invested that in all sorts of different ways and weird and wonderful ways with other people as well, and we've lent money to other people. But it's a great way of releasing funds. Now, I know that, I don't want to mention any names because I know sometimes it can be personal and private, but I do know people that have looked into this. Steve just put, don't mention pension pots to me. Okay, Steve, that sounds a bit onerous. So if you can just elaborate on that, because I do know that you were looking into this yourself. I don't know how far you've got with it at the moment, and I did get your email. I really have had a killer of a week this week. I was in meetings all day in Stoke today, and then I've got meetings all day tomorrow in Oxford, and then Friday I've got meetings all day in Peterborough. So I've had a bit of a killer of a week. So sorry if I haven't got back to you yet, Steve, but I would like to know where you are with that. So if you could just give me a bit of information, that'd be great. And then, of course, you've got joint venture partners. So joint venture partners are not investors. Joint venture partners would normally come into a deal for a share of the profits and potentially a share of the equity as well. Now, there are things that we need to be aware of with joint venture partners and investors, which we'll cover in just a second. And of course, private investors. So a private investor would be very similar to a family member that we mentioned earlier, and they would come along with a certain pot of money in the bank, and they would lend it to you privately. And all you need to do with that is have a loan agreement between each party, and you can just sort out the terms yourself. So that would be a private investor. So, hang on. Just reading the comment. I'm not sure I can I can read this out loud to everybody. Just bear with me, folks. I'm just getting the question in at the moment. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Steve, with that. So, Steve, are you still looking for a direct contact? I know you asked me for somebody's name on an email. Is that still in play? If it is, what I'll do is I will refer your question to Lorraine, and Lorraine will give you that person's direct contact, so you don't have to go through any gatekeepers, if you like. So if you're still after that, please let me know, Yes, you are. Okay. Cheers. No problem, Steve. I will do that, and I will do it tomorrow for you. We have got a long journey over to Oxford tomorrow. We have got a meeting with some joint venture partners, in fact. So I will try and get onto that in the morning for you, and just go straight to that person, and I'm sure that they will be able to help you, Steve. Okay. So I'm hoping that you will get your money out. I know that it is a really good route to market. And folks, as well, Steve Jackson, who is one of our members, been on the membership program for quite some time. Got a bit of good news. Hope Steve doesn't mind me sharing it. Steve was looking for almost his family home, I suppose, back in the UK after living over in Germany for quite some time, and got some great news, I think, about 2 days ago, to say that he was accepted for the property that he applied for. So that's really, really good news, Steve. So well done. Okay, so where did we get to? Yeah, private investors. So what did we do? So mainly in our very, very first deal, we took on a joint venture partner. Now, we only have two joint venture partners with property throughout the whole of our portfolio. And the very first joint venture partner, you may have seen this as a case study. So in fact, I'm going to share this with you folks. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to minimize my screen if I can, if my computer will let me. Whoops. Because I really would like to share this with you. And here we go. So I'm hoping you're still with me. This is a webinar because I'm quite affiliated now with YPN, as most people probably already know. So I'm just going to try and find these set of slides because it's got a great case study on here. Here we go. Okay, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this in a second. I'm going to play it from the slide. Okay, folks, can you see the slide? Give me some feedback because I don't want to be talking to myself. Yeah, you can. Great. Okay, so this is a case study that I share quite often, and it's very real, and it was our very, very first HMO that we bought. And we didn't have any money at the time. So what we did, we found this and sourced it through an estate agency. So it was on Zoopla or Rightmove, or probably both, and it was advertised for 187,000. It wasn't particularly below market value at the time, but it was in Worcester, just outside of the city centre, and it had car parking for about 4 cars with a private driveway and a big, large double garage at the back. So that's me, as you can see at the front there, with the vendor's son. And the motivation really for them to sell was that the vendor himself was suffering from dementia, and he was deteriorating in health. So they wanted to sell up so they could afford to put him into a care home, I suppose, really, so he could be looked after. So we agreed a price of £187,000. And then after we had our offer accepted, we panicked a little bit because we had no money. And this was going back a few years now. And we thought, what have we done? We had an offer accepted. How are we going to afford to pay for it? So we approached a family member. And the family member, which was Lorraine's dad, and he doesn't mind me talking about this, it's actually going into my book, had a pension pot because he'd just retired, and he had about £80,000 sitting in the pension pot as a lump sum, and he wasn't getting a very good return for it. It was only sat in the bank doing nothing. So I approached him and sort of said, well, look, we're going into HMOs, and we know what we're doing because we've become educated, and we think we can make a really good go of this. It's a great property. How do you fancy coming in as our partner? And he said yes, pretty much straight away. So we found the money almost immediately. So when I touched on the slides earlier saying family members, family members are a really good resource. And if you can go into business with them and make sure that it's a win-win, then it's a really good route to, sort of progressing your property journey. So our joint venture partner put all of the money in, so for the purchase and the refurb. And the deal was that I went on then to manage the property and to source the tenants. So I managed the property in terms of the refurb, I advertised the property, and I managed the tenants going forward, and have done now for several years. The deal was that we both get 50% of the net profit and 50% of the capital growth if there was any capital growth going forwards. So the numbers on this, we purchased the property for 187 on a 75% loan to value mortgage. The deposit that we required was £46,750. The refurb, now, I can't do refurbs now for anywhere near this price, and this also included a new bathroom installation, well, shower room really, and toilet. So we managed to do the whole refurb for this job for 20,000, and that included fire doors. It didn't include carpets because the carpets were already there and the kitchen was already new. All the smoke alarm system, the fire protection system, the door closers, painting throughout the whole of the house, smoke protection on the floorboards underneath the carpets, installation of a new bathroom. And that's just the only stuff that I can remember off the top of my head. So everything that we needed in order to get a license. Stamp duty, back in the day, do we remember when stamp duty was only a few pounds? Well, we were fortunate that we bought this before the stamp duty levy came higher for second properties. So the stamp on this was £1,500. And the legals were only 1,000. So the total joint venture money in on this project was 69,250. Now, these room prices that you see here on the right have changed slightly. So we do have 6 bedrooms. Now, it was a true 5-bedroom house, and all we did was turn the living room into a communal. Sorry, no, we didn't. We turned the living room into a bedroom by just putting a bed in and a fire door. So we rented at that time the rooms out for £361 each, or on average, because some of the rooms were a little bit smaller. So that gave us it gave us a gross income of 2,166. We factored the voids and the maintenance, which came to 324. The mortgage and all of the bills came to around about £1,000 a month. So in total, we were spending 1,324, and that made us £841.10 in profit. So that gave me £420 a month from nothing. So that was money really created from thin air, because I didn't have to put any money into that deal. It meant that the joint venture partner, so my father-in-law, received 7.3% return at that time instead of 1.5% that he was getting in the bank. So that's a massive return compared to what he was achieving before. And he also got 50% of any of the capital growth in the property. So it says on here, we will refinance in 18 months. Now, we refinanced this project about a year ago, probably, or thereabouts, and we got a staggering valuation of £260,000 for this property. Now, bearing in mind, remember, we only paid £187,000 for it. We got it valued at £260,000, which meant that we got every single penny for the refurb and the deposit and about £10,000 on top back out of the deal, which meant that we both had a house for free. So this property now is fully occupied. It always is because of the location. It still brings us about £400 a month each, and it didn't cost a bean, nothing, not a penny. So the best thing as well, the caveat to this really, is that my father-in-law, when I gave him his £70,000 back, he said, "You know what, Rick, I don't want it because it's only going to sit in the bank and get me 0% interest. How about I lend it back to you and you keep hold of it forever and give me a great rate of return?" So it's a win-win. And that, folks, I wanted to share that with you tonight because it was our very, very first joint venture HMO deal. So give me some feedback, folks. Who thinks that's a great deal? Who would want a little bit of that in their property journey? So I know you're still with me and I'm not boring you to tears. So what I'm going to do now is go through. So that was our first deal. I'm going to go through now to our last deal, the very last one that we sourced recently, which was in December. Now, some of you may have seen this. So, forgive me if I'm going to go through old ground, but we're talking about raising joint venture finance, and that's the nature of tonight's webinar. So this is our latest deal, which we completed in December. In fact, December the 22nd. Now, this was the whole street. You've probably already seen the photos. This photo doesn't particularly do it justice, but it is the whole street. So we bought 28 flats. 4 individual houses, so starting from the one that you see in front of you with the black door, and then there's one to the left of that as well. There's one in the middle and one to the right of it as well. So you can't really see that in the photographs. So we negotiated this with the direct to vendor. So we sourced it from direct to vendor letters. So everything that we teach you how to do, we absolutely, practice what we preach, and we did exactly that. We wrote to the owner of the property about 3 years ago, and at the time he came back and said he wanted 1.3 million. We couldn't do that at that time. Folks, bear with me. I just need to take a quick sip of water. I'm just getting a bit of a croaky throat. Sorry about that, folks. I've been talking all day today. I've had 2 meetings today, back to back, so my throat is a little bit raspy. So, where did we get to? Yeah. So, at the time that we approached the owner of the property, he wanted 1.3 million, and we just didn't have the resources at that time to source it. So we put it in the follow-up box, and we followed it up about 2 years later, so about a year ago now. And they said, yeah, still on the market, 1.2 million. They dropped the price, and would we still be interested? So long story short, we negotiated a deal. We managed to buy it for 1.1 million, 28 flats fully occupied, cash flowing currently at, this is current, folks, this is now £9,000 a month gross. After all the bills, this brings in just under £5,000 a month net profit from one deal. How did we finance it? Well, how much did it cost me? Nothing. It didn't cost us anything because we found a joint venture partner to come into the deal with us. Joint venture partner has put all of the money in for the deposit, and then we will have a structured, phased plan on how we refinance that money back out over the next 12 months. And there are lots of different opportunities for us to be able to add value to the property by decorating, by adding bathrooms, and also potentially by building on the back. Now, this is in the city centre. We've got 14 car parking spaces as well, and we may be able to do something in terms of building on the back going forwards. So I wanted to share that with you as well, because as I say, tonight is about raising finance. So we've created a £1.1 million portfolio with none of our own money. Hasn't cost us anything. And that is with our joint venture partners. So I mentioned to you earlier, we've only got 2 joint venture partners, and those are the 2. The other ways that we've sourced our properties over the years, and certainly in the beginning, was by taking on investors rather than joint venture partners. And there is a significant difference. So let me just get rid of those slides because it is a different presentation. Any questions on that specifically, folks, before I go back to the main webinar this evening? Roger, you've put, when speaking about your first deal, you mentioned fire protection. Okay, I didn't say fire protection for carpets, Roger. So what we do is, in order to make our properties safe, if in a bedroom, so if it's a room above a room, so if you've got a bedroom above a living room or a bedroom above a kitchen, then we make sure that the flooring underneath the carpet, if it's not in one piece, so if it's tongue and grooved, it's okay, but if it's the old standard floorboards with gaps in between, what we have to do is make them safe from smoke ingress. So if there's a fire underneath the room, the smoke, of course, will rise. It will go through the floorboards and go into the room upstairs. So what we do with that is we put hardboard flooring down to stop the smoke from rising into that bedroom. I hope that makes sense. So we do that on almost all of our properties now anyway. You don't have to do it if you've got tongue and grooving. You don't have to do it if it's linoed, because it won't come up anyway. But if you've got flooring that have got holes in, then it will stop the smoke from rising upwards. So hoping that's okay. Steve's saying you should have married Lorraine. Okay, not sure why. I manage these properties, but I'm also not sure why. I mean, of course I know why I married her. I don't know, don't know what I mean by that myself, really. So, Roger's put, yeah, thanks, good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea, but it's also legislation, Roger. So you might get asked by your HMO officer to prove that you've done it whilst you're doing your refurbs as well. So although it's a good idea, it's also something you should do. Gurdeep is asking, how did you find the joint venture partner for this deal? Okay, I'm going to come into that in a second, Gurdeep, because that's part of the other set of slides that I was talking about earlier. And I'll explain to you how we did it and how you could do it as well going forwards. Oh, I see, Steve. Yeah, because she had a dad with cash. So Steve, yeah. So it was an in for us really, because Lorraine's dad did have that money. Would it have stopped us? No, of course not, because we went on from that deal to acquire 11 other properties in the next 10 months. Without using any of our own money as well, but we did that by using by using investors rather than joint venture partners. So right, folks, I'm going to come out of those slides. Bear with me a second. So we just need to get rid of this presentation and go back into the other one. Okay, so we should be back into the other one. So we got to joint ventures. So the fundamental difference is joint ventures and private investors are two very different things. You need to understand what the differences are. So the joint ventures will have an equity share, and they will almost definitely have a share of the profits as well. So they can have an equity share by means of buying the property with you 50-50, and that's what we did. So Lorraine's dad's on the mortgage, or you can bring people into your deals by offering them something called a deed of trust, which means that although they don't have a stake on land registry per se, because it's mortgaged in one person's name, they will have a document that gives them rights to whatever percentage you're allowing them to by means of a deed of trust. And then private investors are people that will loan money for a fixed rate of return, and rather than having it sat in the bank. So those are the two very different things. Now, the things that you need to be aware of are the Financial Control Authority regulations. So the FCA, there is something you may have heard of, you may not. It's called PS 13/3. And this is the legislation that stipulates that if you're offering a variable rate of return and or equity in a property, then before you enter into that agreement, you will have to have that person certified as either a sophisticated investor or a high net worth individual. Now, what does that mean? So let's break that down. Doesn't include family members, folks, okay? So if it's your family, then they are excluded from this legislation. You can go into business with your family all day long. So the FCA have kind of put this in as a safeguard for both parties, so that the person that you're going into business with is given advice from a financial advisor and almost interviewed to find out whether or not that they are in the right place and whether they are aware of the risks and the rewards, of course, on going into a deal with a joint venture partner such as this. So it stops people from going maybe 6 months down the line into a deal and coming back at their partner saying, well, hang on a minute, I wasn't in the right place at that time. I was going through some emotional turmoil or some mental stress, and you came to me and you targeted me and kind of coerced me into going into business with you, and now I'm coming at you because I want my money back. So it stops all of that from taking place, and other things as well. So what happens is you would find somebody that's that's interested in going into the business with you, and then refer them to a financial advisor in order to have them certified, which probably isn't the right word, but then they will be certified as either a sophisticated investor, which means it's somebody that is already in investments, they know what they're doing, they've got a good level of understanding on property and the property market, they know that it can go up and it can go down, or someone that's a high net worth individual. So I think that's somebody that earns over 100k a year, and they've got a high net worth in the bank already. So you don't need to do that if it's a family member or if it's on a loan-based agreement, okay? So you only need to do that if it's a variable return and it's equity share in the property. If you're looking for someone to lend you money in the very simplistic terms. So, for example, you're looking for £50,000, then somebody approaches you and they've got 50,000 and they agree to lend it to you for a fixed return, and then you pay them back either with interest every month or interest only every month, and then pay the principal sum back at the end of the agreement. You don't need to get them certified for that. So I hope that's okay. Hope I've explained that okay for you. If you've got any questions on that, then please just pop them in the box. So always take legal advice, folks. And that's my sort of caveat, if you like, to say, look, every deal is different, and what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. So no matter what you do, you've got to take some form of advice from a third party, and maybe not so much with direct loans, but definitely with joint venture agreements. So if you've got a joint venture agreement with somebody, you're going to need to have a contract written. I wouldn't suggest you do it yourself, but you've got to have something. Don't ever do it on a handshake, even if it's a family member, because sometimes things get forgotten, and over time things can get distorted. So no matter what you do, make sure that you get a joint venture agreement or a loan agreement written up that clearly states both parties' responsibilities. Okay, so very, very important there, folks. Just dipping in here, Lee's saying, can you just lend money off someone if non-family member says they will lend you money but just wants the money back with no interest? Yeah, you absolutely. No, you don't need to have them certified, Lee. So if it's just a private loan from a private investor, that's fine. So if you remember what I said, so if it's a fixed return, and that would be, so even if they don't want any interest, that's absolutely fine. Either they want interest, but it will be fixed. If it's fixed at whatever percentage you agree on, then that's fine. You can do that all day long. You don't need to have them certified in order to do a fixed return. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Lee. Alan's saying on case study number 2, are you splitting the net profit? Yes, we are. So yes, Alan, that's everything's 50-50 on that one, which is a pretty good deal for me considering we didn't put any cash into it. So yes, absolutely. Okay, so back to the slides. Always take advice, okay? Always make sure that you have your legal documentation done properly by a professional. So whether that's a loan agreement or whether that is a legal joint venture agreement, make sure that you always get that done by a professional. So the benefits of both, really. So I think I mentioned this probably quite a lot, and I want you to learn by my mistakes. Going back, we started with our joint venture partner, and then we decided that we saw the money and we thought, this is a great strategy. This is going to make us a lot of money. Do we really need to give half of everything away on every deal? And we decided at that point that we didn't want to do it that way. So rather than taking on joint venture partners, we then went out looking for investors that would lend us money, and we could use that money then going forwards to do rent to rents and lease options, etc. And we got to keep all of the equity if we bought it afterwards and all of the net profit. Now, is that a good strategy? And I'm going to say no, it's not. Because in hindsight, had we have taken on more joint venture partners rather than investors, we probably would have grown a lot quicker. So we were forced, because I want you to know as well, folks, don't be disillusioned, because if you borrow money off people, the bank are going to want you to prove that deposit and where it came from. And if it's borrowed money, most banks won't accept it as a deposit. You need to be very aware of that. Okay, so if somebody comes along to you and lends you £50,000 for a deposit on a property, and you're going to use that as a deposit, the bank are going to want to know where it came from. Now, if it's a cash gift and they don't want the money back, then you can do it that way, but you will need to prove to the lender that that's the case, which means that you will have to get a letter from the person giving you that money stating that it's a cash gift and they don't want it back. All right. So just be careful on that. I'm not gonna flower things up for you and tell you that you can borrow money off people and then use that as a deposit, because more often than not, it's not the case. Okay, so just be careful. So that's one of the reasons we decided to start with rent to rent and lease options, because yes, we were getting loads of money in from investors. No, we couldn't use that at that time to buy houses with, because they weren't gifted deposits. So we had to then use that money for refurbs on things like lease options and rent to rent. But then at the end of the term of the lease option, we used the cash flow then to save up and buy the lease options at the end. So we then managed to structure our portfolio in that way, and it worked really well for us. So where are we? How much to offer for both agreements? So typically, most people in joint venture agreements, and I say typically because every deal is different, and every deal, it doesn't matter how you structure it, as long as it's a win-win for everybody. So as long as you're happy and your partner's happy, then that's a great deal. But I'm going to say stereotypically, what normally happens is somebody will find the deal. For example, I'll find a deal such as our last one, and we'll take it to our network, and we will say, look, we've got this great deal. Who would like to come in on the deal? And what we would like in return is 50%, all of the money, sorry. So we'd like all of the money for the purchase. We both go on the mortgage, and then we split everything 50-50. And that's typically how we structured our joint venture deals. And that's quite common. Most people would structure their deals that way. Is it fair? Well, yes, I think it is, because you've got one person that's actively out there finding the deals, and then the other person's putting the money in. So, you could say that you couldn't have it without the money, but then you couldn't have it without the deal either. So I think it's a very fair way to do it personally, and that's how, in my experience, most people will structure their deals. So how much would you offer for private finance? Well, that really is up to you. And it really is dependent on what profit and return on investment you've got in that deal, and what your partner, or not partner, your investor is looking to achieve as well. And if there's anything else on top that you can offer, such as learning, and maybe bringing people to walk around the property and show them how you do it yourselves. So I'll tell you how we've done this in the past. So we structured our investments too high at the beginning of our journey, because we kind of thought that at that time offering a return of around about 12%, so 1% a month, was the norm. So we did, and we started at the very beginning taking money in from investors and paying them a 12% return. But that's far too high. And we realized very, very quickly that there are people out there that will lend you the same amount of money for far less than that. And there's no need to go in at such a high percentage. So within the first 6 months, we kind of stopped doing that. And now we don't really pay any more than 4%, which I know lots of people could get it for a lot more than that. But it's about the relationship as well, and the trustworthiness of the person that's investing with you. So we don't generally lend money anymore. We do still have some private investors, a very small group of our best investors, and these people will probably go on to do good business with again in the future. So to answer, I think somebody asked me, how did we find the investor for the last deal? Sorry, I can't remember who it was. Excuse me, just going to take another sip of water. To answer that question, it was one phone call, folks. Okay, one phone call to our partner, and our partner, we met them through our network several years ago, and over the course of the last few years, we built up a relationship with them, just on a personal basis. So nothing to do with business, but we've kept in touch with them. We've helped them and coached them through their property journey as well. And obviously you get to know people and you get to know their position financially as well. And we always said that, look, if anything ever comes up that's big and it's a really, really good deal, maybe we should look at doing something together. And of course, this deal did come up. So I made one phone call to this person, and we agreed in principle over the phone. And then it took an awful lot then of due diligence and planning, and lots of visits from councils, going to the property and conservation officers because it's listed, etc. So, I mean, Lorraine and our partner and myself did at least 6 to 8 months worth of due diligence, costing around about 30,000, maybe even more, just in due diligence, just to make sure that this was a solid investment. So that's how we managed to raise that finance. I hope I answered that question. I can't remember who answered it. Sorry, who asked it now. So that's how we found the finance for that property. One of the biggest things with working with other people you have to understand is that it's about relationships. And you can borrow money off people all day long, but if you're going to go into business with somebody, it's not just about the money and it's not just about the deal. So let's push all of that to one side for a second, because going into business with somebody is about relationships as much as it is about being successful. Because if you find that either you can't work with that person going forwards, then it's going to be a very miserable existence for you both, and probably will result in the business failing because your values are misaligned. So I want you to really understand that before you take on any partner, you must build a relationship. And if that means losing a deal, then, lose a deal or try and find the funds to do it with somebody else that you already know. Because, I could go to market. I'll give you another example. About 6 months ago, when I posted on my Facebook forum that we're about to complete on this deal, I got a phone call from somebody that I've never met, but is part of my Facebook group, on the HMO discussion group. And this person flatly offered me £500,000 to do another deal like that one with them. And that is great, and it's flattering. And I was very, very humbled from the offer. But in all honesty, I would never do that because I don't know this person from Adam. And I don't know even if I can work with them, whether our values are aligned together, whether they are trustworthy, all of the above. So there's so much more you need to consider before you jump into bed, literally, with somebody that you don't really know. So here's what we do. So you nurture the relationship together, and at the very early stages, what I have done in the past, I almost went into business with somebody else and it didn't work. So this is what we did at that point. So we were looking at a deal, and it was a big 8-bedroom HMO. And I did post in the network, is anybody interested in coming on this deal? And I had several responses, one of which was from somebody that also lived in Worcester. So that in itself put them to the top of the pile. So we began the relationship by talking over the phone. And over a period of about 6 to 8 months, we started to get to know each other. We didn't do anything at all. We didn't go into business. We just started to get to know each other. And that meant them coming to my house. When I say them, it was this person and their wife coming to my house, having coffee, going out for coffee at Costa, general chit chat. What's their reason why? What makes them tick? What is it that they're looking for to achieve in property? What's their experience? And then over time, we get to build a picture about them. I then took them around my portfolio, all of the HMOs that I owned at that time, and showed them where we were. And I provided them with an information pack which consisted of a proof of identification, my credit file, all of the title deeds of the property I owned, and all of the management agreements of the properties that I had on rent to rents. So I could prove to them, as much as I could, how credible I was at that time. I didn't give them a set of accounts because I would have done if I'd have asked for it, but it's not something I offer freely. And if I'm ever sort of challenged or asked for a set of accounts, then of course I will provide that as well. Now, this isn't something for them to take away and keep, because there's so much private information and personal information contained within that file. I would never allow someone to take that away for obvious reasons. So what I did, is I offered the file to them and said, look, this is me. I'm going to go and grab a coffee. Please, take as long as you want to read through the information, and then we can discuss it if you've got any questions afterwards. And that's how I did that. And I would expect them to do exactly the same. And this is obviously if you don't know them. And then if they can't offer you the same information, then that would put a grey cloud above it straight away because I'd want to know why. From that point then, we started to go out and look for property. And we went and looked for several different properties. We had one that we already had in mind. We started to do due diligence on that property. So a long story short, from start to finish, it probably took about 9 months for us to say, well, yeah, I think we could probably do something together. And that's quite quick, I think. Now, here's where it went wrong. We offered on the property, it was accepted. We went to solicitors, we drew up contracts, we went to legals, as I say, and they pulled out because they got cold feet. Now, subsequently, it cost me, I don't know how much, but quite a lot of money in aborted fees. And that's sort of, something that you need to be aware of when you're going to go into business with somebody you don't know. They got cold feet, didn't really tell me why, decided they wanted to go off and do it themselves, which they did. They went off, did it themselves and made a mistake because they turned a property into a 7-bedroom HMO without planning permission. So really, they did it wrong anyway and kind of bit themselves by doing it like that. So what's the moral of the story? Build up your relationships, because even at that point, after 8 or 9 months, it can still go wrong. So don't just jump into bed with people you don't know, and do your due diligence even on the people that you do know. And the other thing you need to consider is, if you're going to go into business with someone, you're linking yourself with them financially if you're buying a property together. So if for any reason they already have a bad credit score, or they default on any payments, it may also affect you and your credit rating because you are linked with them financially. So that's something else that you've got to consider, folks. Okay, so there's an awful lot, isn't there, to consider with joint venture partners, but it's really fruitful when you get that relationship and it's strong, because when we work with other people, we leverage our skill set against each other. So I'll give you an example. Lorraine, my wife, I know we're married, but it's just an example. Lorraine is very analytical and she is the numbers. Lorraine does the numbers and then hands it over to me, and I do the operations, which is the managing of the property and making the money. And if you can find a partnership like that, then that's the kind of thing that you should be looking for. So, your skill sets should be opposites, which means that it really works as a good partnership. So there's a great book called Rocket Fuel out there, and it talks about integrators and visionaries. And a visionary is somebody that is out there and can have the foresight of finding deals and finding almost uncannily excellent opportunities. And the integrator is always the 2IC, the second in command, who will actually take that then and make it work. So it's a great book, folks. Rocket Fuel, it's called. Have a look at it. It's not an easy read, and it's an even worse to listen to, but it does make a lot of sense. And that's how we fundamentally look for joint venture partners. So had we have taken on more joint venture partners, I think we would have had twice the size portfolio now as we do. So we kind of got a bit greedy and maybe we shot ourselves in the foot. So we are, actually, we're not growing at the moment. We're not looking for any more deals right now because we've got enough on with what we've got. But when we do go into an acquisition phase going forwards, we will certainly be looking to bring people into the deals now rather than using our own money. And it's great to use investor money. That's great. It's really good. But don't forget, you've got to pay that back. So it's not going away. You're going to borrow that 10, 15, 20 or 30,000 pounds to put into a refurb on a great project, but it doesn't disappear. Not only do you have to pay monthly interest at the end of that agreement, you've got to find that money to pay them back. So you're using your own money really anyway at the end of the deal. Whereas if you're using a joint venture partner's money, then they're going to fund it. You're going to put the effort and the work in, so you don't have to use any of your own money. And then if it's a really great deal, you can refinance all your cash back out and everyone's a winner. Okay, I've got loads of questions coming in, folks. So I'm going to rattle forwards. I didn't realise the time. It is actually 10 to 8. Hoping this is okay for you, folks. Give me some feedback. It is interactive. And, if I'm going off on a tangent, me, guys and girls, I am so passionate about everything I do. I could talk to you till 2 o'clock in the morning and still wouldn't be finished. So, if I do go off on a tangent, please, just give me a little tap on the shoulder, tell me to shut up. So, folks, perfectly now going over to you for questions and answers. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause the webinar for just 2 minutes to get some more water, give you some time to think of any questions, tap them in the question box for me, and we will cover all of them before 8 o'clock, hopefully. And if there's anything at all that that you're not sure of, don't be afraid to ask. Or if you are afraid to ask, then please private message me on the forum, and I can also get back to you that way as well. So 2-minute break, folks. Quick slurp of water, and then I'll be straight back in the room. I suppose that was probably the quickest 2 minutes. I think it was just a minute. So I want to give you the opportunity now to think of some questions, and please don't post anything that you don't want me to say, because it's hard for me to quarantine questions in the format that they come in. So I kind of really just read them straight out. So if it's something that you don't want me to publish openly, and don't forget that this is also being recorded, so it will go out on the private forum, but just to give you the heads up with that, really. So keep the questions coming in, folks. I have got about 8 questions. There are more people than 8 in the group. So don't forget, I can see who's here as well. So I can see who is interacting and who isn't. So I don't want to name and shame, but I'm sure that you all have lots of burning questions. So I'd like to see them, please, folks. As I say, I can see everybody. I can give initials if you would like me just to say hello to you. Just, put your hand up, say hi. Okay, so let me scroll. I'm going to work backwards almost here. So I'm going to scroll from the top down. Right, Roger, and this is going back to the beginning of the webinar. So Roger said he's forgotten his question. Okay. Please, can you go over the research on Zoopla that you carry out to arrive at the lists you occasionally put on the members forum? Yeah, Roger, great question. Dead easy. We go into the post codes that are listed in the back of YPN. So at the back of the YPN magazine, they always, every month, publish the average room rentals in all of the major cities around the UK. We go onto Zoopla and Rightmove, and we type in that postcode, and in the advanced search option, we type in HMO, and that's it. And we just capture all of the properties that come back on those search, and then we put it out for everybody else to look at. So they are usually once a month we do that, and they are live current HMO deals. Now, when I say deals, that really doesn't, it depends on you and what you're looking for as a deal. But what we try and do is just really prove a point almost, Roger, by saying, look, people that come to me and say there are no deals out there, well, I'm saying, here, there's 70 for you. And if you can't find one deal out of the 70 that we've posted, then you're doing something wrong. So not only does it help people because we do the work and we take all the effort out, it also shows that there are absolutely deals out there, and they're already HMOs. These are properties that are either already licensed or already have planning permission. So there are obviously other properties that would also be suitable, but we just target the actual HMO. So I hope that helps. I won't be able to see your reply right now because I'm at the wrong end of the screen, but I am working through. Hello, Amy. Hope you're well. Amy's just saying hi. Nice for you to join us this evening. Lee's asking, how long should I wait for an estate agent to put an offer in? How long should I wait for an estate agent to put an offer in? Put it in 48 hours ago. Called yesterday and was told we'll call back and nothing. Called today and was told the same. Okay, so I suspect they have probably got another offer in, Lee, and they are either waiting for them to come back with proof of funds and they don't want to say no to you because you're number 2, or the vendor is really painfully slow. So that's my suspicion with that. Now, 48 hours, that's okay. That's not so bad. I wouldn't be too worried about it. But keep badgering them, and that shows them that you're serious. So yes, go back to them tomorrow and pin them down and say, look, how long would it take really? Because I've only got a certain amount of funds and I am looking at other deals. Okay, so give them the choice and say, look, I have got other deals on the table. I can only do one. I'd like to do yours. So please can you get back to me as soon as you can, so I know I'm not going to lose the other deals if this one doesn't go ahead. So that's how I would play that, Lee. So I hope that helps. Yes, Steve. Steve's reminded me about the landlord letters. Somebody, I can't remember who, posted in the forum about the landlord letter series, and I wanted to touch on it tonight. Maybe I should do this on another webinar because it probably take too long tonight. All I wanted to say was that your letters should start with the first landlord letter that you send, very basic, almost like an introductory letter, to say, hi, I'm Steve, and I'm a local property investor based in Plymouth, and I am currently looking to acquire more properties in the area of X, and I noticed that you already have a HMO in that area, and I was hoping perhaps that maybe I would be able to discuss how I can help you with your HMO or something similar. That's just come off the top of my head. Please get in touch with me now. Thanks very much. Or yours sincerely, Steve, with a telephone number. And you don't really want to do anything too overpowering on the first letter. Your second letter should be something along the lines of, dear Mr. Dudar, hi, it's Steve again. I wrote to you on the 1st of January asking if I could help you at all with your HMO, and I just wanted to emphasize and break down our services for you to see or to show you how we can help you manage your HMO or potentially buy it off you should you be in the market to sell. So here are the services we offer. We offer a guaranteed rent scheme whereby we give you a guaranteed fee each month for your property, regardless of whether we have it occupied or not. And during that time, we will refurbish your property at our cost to a very high standard. So the benefits of this would be you get a guaranteed income every year, regardless of voids, which puts us head and shoulders above estate agents. You get to have the peace of mind that your property will be under our control of professional landlords, and in the knowledge that we will only recruit the best of tenants, etc. So that would be an example of letter number 2. Letter number 3 is where you really need to get their ears pricked up. So letter number 3 will be more analytical. And on our letter number 3, what we've done is we've given a breakdown of figures for our business model against a regular letting agent, a regular estate agent. So we've given them almost like a little spreadsheet, a snapshot of a spreadsheet on how much they would get if we had the property and how much they would get if average Joe letting agent had the property. And obviously ours is going to be a lot more attractive because we are guaranteeing the voids, and of course we are potentially adding value to the property as well at our cost. So that's the financial implications of it. So if you don't go with us and you go with the letting agent, look how much you're going to lose at the end of the year. And then letter number 4, which we're coming to the end of the campaign, we would do a scare tactic. And now it sounds terrible, but it's not. What we would do is give them a gentle tap on the shoulder and a reminder on the current legislation and how it might be changing. So, dear landlord, I'm sure you're very aware that we have significant tax changes almost upon us by means of what is called Clause 24. If you're not already aware of this, this means that the government have decided to take away the mortgage interest rate relief for properties that are owned in private individuals' names. This means you can no longer claim your tax back on these properties, and therefore you will potentially be losing a considerable amount of money. Did you know this? How much is this going to cost you? And then what I'd put underneath that, also we have looming, or not looming, but we have, I can't think of a word right now. I have been in meetings all day, but we have impending changes within the mandatory licensing laws for HMOs. Did you know that it is likely that in October 2017, if your room sizes are no bigger than 6.52 square meters, you can no longer use that room to rent out to a tenant. Did you also know that regardless of how many floors your property has, if you have 5 tenants in your house, you will now need a license. This will also need the authority of any mortgage provider that you currently have. Now that's going to put the willies up a lot of investors, because I know categorically that a lot of the old school investors will be having buy-to-let mortgages, and they probably didn't even tell the mortgage company it was going to be a HMO, so they're breaching their mortgage terms. That's going to make people, that's going to prick their ears up. So, don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I can help you with all of the above. All you need to do is give me a call. And there's your campaign, folks. Now, I know I'm kind of ranting down the microphone here, but that's a hard-hitting campaign. So, first of all, you're telling them who you are. Hi. It's like meeting someone in a club, isn't it, for the first time? Hi, how are you? I'm Rick. Fancy a drink? Blah, blah, blah. Just get to know them. That's all you're doing. You're introducing yourself. The second one, you're kind of saying, well, you're dipping your toe in, saying, well, look, I'm here, and these are the services that I can offer you if you choose to take them. The third one, well, I'm going to tell you actually now. Now we've got to know each other a little bit, and you've known me because I've sent you 2 letters. Here's how I can make you more money. And then on the fourth one, you're going to make them feel their pain. If they're not already aware of it, they might be sticking their head in the sand. But you're going to tell them now that actually, if you don't do something about this, you're in the shit. Yeah? And this is true, folks, and we are helping them, because a lot of people will be panicking when these new legislation changes come in. Excuse me. What are the implications? Well, if they've got a buy-to-let mortgage and they're trading it as a HMO, they are breaching the mortgage terms. And I know that some of the really old school landlords that have got the old Mortgage Express mortgages and the like, they won't have the authority, and Mortgage Express won't change the terms. They are calling in loans, so they will call in the loan without a shadow of a doubt. How can you help them? Well, you can go in and offer to buy their property off them below market value. You're going to get them out of the mire, and it's already a HMO, so you're going to take it on with the right product, with the right lender. And if they're if they don't have a mortgage, then you can go and potentially take it on as a rent to rent and repurpose the rooms that are too small right now. You can maybe make them bigger, or you can repurpose the house somehow. I don't know, but these are all really great ways of getting leads, folks. And if you haven't got a campaign out there like that now, you need to do it. You need to sort of word your letters a bit better. I can help you with that. It was just off the cuff, but you understand the concept. And that's really why I wanted to touch on that tonight, folks. I wanted to tell you about it rather than try and type it out in the forum, because it doesn't really come across as well as better. I hope that's useful for you. Moving down the list, where are we? Landlord letters, yeah, just done that one. Lee, what due diligence should I do before committing to a property? Oh, Lee, you need to go back into the learning platform onto month 2 and month 3. I can't unfortunately go through that tonight. That's a whole lesson, probably with about 4 videos. Due diligence is massive. Very briefly for you as a synopsis, Article 4, does it have it, doesn't it have it? Room sizes, integral. You need to know absolutely whether or not the room sizes are going to be the right size or not. You need your local amenity standards from the council. You need to download that off the website, or I think we had a conversation actually, Lee. I think you got it in the end, didn't you? Or it was listed and you couldn't get it. So you need to be aware of how big your kitchens have got to be, how many cupboards you've got to provide, your fire alarm system, what you need, whether it's going to be compliant or not, your fire doors. So that I can't go into all of that tonight, unfortunately, because it is a whole lesson on itself. But if you dip back into month 2 and month 3, it's all covered on there, Lee. Steve mentioning the pensions, we covered that, I think. Steve saying you're a star, no rush. Yeah, that was for the lead that I'm going to bring over to you. Alan's just saying yep, so I'm presuming you're agreeing to something there, Alan. I'm working down the list. Roger, when speaking about your first deal, you mentioned fire carpets. You had done that one. Good. How did you find the joint venture partner for this deal? I think I mentioned that. But the other thing as well, folks, finding joint venture partners, network. Okay, you've got to get out there. if you're not, I mean, I hate being cliched and I don't want to be cheesy, but you're not going to catch any fish if you haven't got a net. The fish aren't going to jump onto your boat. And that is absolutely how it works. So you've got to get out there, you've got to network. So you've got to network online, and you're doing that already. You're already in my network, which is great. So, you've got that opportunity, but you've got to get out there and push yourself out there into the local networking meetings. And, some are free, some you have to pay for, but it doesn't matter. You've just got to get out there, get your name known. And if you do go out networking, then you've got to stand up and tell people why you're there. And I know that, you're going to have to get out your comfort zone sometimes to do that. I hated it to begin with. But now, it doesn't really faze me at all. But you've got to stand up and tell people why you're there, because there's no point in going unless you stand up and tell people why you're there. Now, a lot of network groups won't allow you to ask for money because of PS 13.3, and rightfully so. But there's a different way of pitching it. You could stand up and say, "Hi, my name's Gerdip. I'm a local property investor in the area of, and I've got some great deals. And I was wondering if anybody was interested in talking to me on how they can help me with my deals. Come and talk to me in the break," and then go and discuss it with them. You don't have to stand up and say, "Hi, I'm Gerdip and I'm looking for money." So networking is, excuse me, it's vitally important, and it will define how you go forward with your property journey. Hope that helps. Gerdip. We covered that one, Alan. I think I answered that earlier. Lee, you said about your family member. If it's a non-family member and they lend you the money, do they need to be certified? No, we covered that earlier. Steve saying, do you even have to certify other mastermind investors that you know? Steve, if you knew them 12 months prior to the legislation coming in, and I can't remember when it came in, it's been in about 3 years, I think, then no. If you didn't know them 12 months prior to the legislation coming in, then yes. Yeah. So there may appear to be sophisticated investors, but all you're doing here is covering yourself going forwards. So if you're doing joint ventures with somebody else and you didn't know them 12 months prior to the legislation coming in, then really you should be getting each other certified. They should be certifying you as well. Do people do it? No, they don't. And I know that they don't. Should you do it? Well, the legislation is there, and it's there to protect both parties going forward should anything go wrong in the deal. So that's all I can say to you, really. I know people don't do it. Folks, it's like, teaching you how to drive to get through your test and then actually learning how to drive, isn't it? I can't tell you the wrong way, but I know people do cut corners. So I hope that answers it in a bit of a riddle way, Steve, really. Lee, can they just transfer the money over and just tell the bank that you have borrowed it? Can they? I don't really know what you mean, Lee, on that. I think we're talking about gifted deposits, weren't they? They don't have to tell the bank anything. They can transfer the money to you as a loan. They don't need to tell the bank anything. That's between the two of you. Your accountant will need to know about it, because I need to know where that money's come from. So all of a sudden, if you've had a £20,000 input, your accountant's going to want to know where it's come from, okay? So bear that in mind, because otherwise they're going to think it's income. So to prove that it's a loan, you'll have to have the documentation to support that. So your accountant will probably, well, not probably, but they will definitely need to see that documentation. Otherwise, it looks like someone's just given you a bung of £10,000, and they're going to want to know where it's come from. If you get investigated, you need to prove everything. So, yes, they can transfer the money over to you, but you need documentation to support it. So if my dad lends me money, needs to be that he has given me, yeah. So Lee's asking that if his dad gives him money, can he use that as a deposit to purchase a property? I think that's what you mean, Lee. Only if your dad gives the bank a signed declaration, which will need to be witnessed, stating that it's a gifted deposit. So he could say that it's your inheritance. And because it's a family member, the likelihood is that they will accept that. Say, look, it's an early inheritance. I'd rather Lee have it now and enjoy it so I can enjoy it with him while I'm still here, rather than wait till I'm gone, type of thing. So yes, that probably would be accepted, but you need to talk to a broker, Lee, just to confirm that. And I can't give regulated financial advice, but in my experience, and I can only tell you what works for me, then that sometimes may be deemed as being acceptable. Steve's saying, it's been a great webinar. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. Kate, do you know how leveraged you can be in September 2017 to take out more mortgages? Do I know how leveraged I can be in September this year to take out more? I don't really know what you mean, Kate. I'm sorry. I don't understand the question. Could you just emphasize on that a little bit? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Oh, Kate, underneath, I think you've already put that in there. I mean your portfolio overall to be able to get more mortgages in line with the new September 20. But personally, I'm not looking at the moment to buy any more houses right now. So we have got a period now of 12 months consolidation because I've got plans in for 4 new houses that we're building. We hopefully will be putting plans in on the big project I showed you earlier for apartments, etc. So personally, I haven't looked into where we are going to be in 2017. But if you need advice on how your affairs are going to look, then please get in touch with the mortgage broker. We have got Morgan in the group. You need to give him a call and he can probably help you with that because he is a qualified broker and he's allowed to give regulated advice. Good saying thank you. Steve, thanks for the answer. And Lee saying wicked webinar. And okay, folks, absolutely fantastic. So I know we've gone a little bit over. It's only 10 minutes over. Hope you enjoyed that. And for the new members, I hope you got great value from that. And, we do this every month. It is really informal. It's not like the webinars that you dip into, that people are on the internet, selling stuff. We don't do any of that. You're already in the group and it's just about giving you value. And I just want to end with, motivation and a little bit of mindset. Property is a lonely journey. It can be very difficult if you're doing this on your own. I want you to know that you're not on your own. You've got all of the members in the group. There's 50 members in the group. You've got me, you've got Bernadette, you've got Lorraine, and you've got all of the power team as well. So Mark's in the group. You've got Bernadette's in the group. You've got Morgan, who's in the group as well. And Chris Coates as well. So there's a guy called Chris who does all of our legal contracts for lease options. He's quiet in the group, but he is in the group, so you can contact him through that. So, just keep pushing forward, folks. Do what we say. Follow the recipe as we say. Make sure that you do go into the online learning videos. Make sure that you are following them. They are sequential. They do have a structure. So you need to go through them, in the structured manner. For the new members, month 2 is a real good deep dive for you. Month 2 is completely different than month 1. But we do start month 1 with the recording of the classroom because it's about repetition. And I do put a lot of information on the classroom course. You're not going to take it all in. So we do start you back with that. So keep pushing, stay motivated, and just follow the recipe. And hopefully I will speak to you all very soon in the forum. So thank you, folks, and good night.